Welcome to Code Coding. In this video, we will see the practical implementation of functional interface. In the previous video, we have already seen what is a functional interface. Functional interface are the interface that contain exactly one abstract method. They can have any number of default and static method. Functional interface are also called as single abstract method interfaces. And for declaring functional interface, we can make use of @functional interface annotation, which is optional to use. Annotation is used for interface with more than one abstract method. It will generate a compile time error. Now let's see the practical implementation of functional interfaces. So here I have created one package called functional interface. Inside this package I have one interface and the name of interface is my functional interface. Now let's declare a method inside this interface. So if I provide here a method called void print, this is my abstract method, right? Because we have just provided the declaration of it, not the body or the implementation of this particular method. So this is a functional interface, right? Because it has only one abstract method and it does not have any default or static method. We can have it, but currently we don't have it, right? So this is our functional interface. Now if I try to add default and static method inside it, so let's try to add a default method here. Default. So we have already seen how to declare a default method inside the interfaces. So here I will say default void, let's say my default name here, and default method needs to be provided with body. So here I will say sysout default method. So this is also a functional interface, right? Because we have one abstract method and here we have default method. Now we will try to add a static method. Let's copy this particular method, paste it here. Now make the necessary changes. Instead of default, I want it to be static. I will say a static, and here we will say my static. I will say here my static. Here we will say static method. So this is also a functional interface, because in functional interface we have limit only on abstract methods, right? We can have any number of default and static methods. And now if I try to add one more abstract method here, let's say void show. So this is also abstract method. Currently it is allowing us to add two abstract method, because then it will not be our functional interface, because in functional interface we should have only one abstract method, but currently in this interface we have two abstract methods. So it means that now this is not a functional interface, this is a normal interface now. But what if we want to try to make it a functional interface? Then we need to make use of @functional interface annotation. So if I say here functional interface, so now currently it's giving me error. What does the error says? It says my functional interface is not a functional interface. And why it is not a functional interface? Because we have two abstract methods here. If I try to remove one abstract method, then there is no error, because now it's functional interface, right? But when you try to add another abstract method, then it will give you a error, because then it will not follow the criteria of functional interface. Functional interface should have only one abstract method. Another thing I want to show you, let's say I have one more interface here. Let's create one more interface and let's provide the name of interface as test. So this is the interface test, and inside this interface currently there is no method. And what if I extend my functional interface extends test, right? One interface can extend another interface, so there is no change here, means there is no error also. So this is a functional interface only, because there is one abstract method and there are default and static methods. And what if I try to add a default method inside this interface? Let's say I add a default method, default void, and I say a test default, right? And let's provide an implementation for it also. out, and let's say default method. Now what will happen here? Now this particular interface is again extended by our functional interface, and now this test interface is having a default method. Now that this particular test default method will also be accessible from this interface, right? Because it is extending the test interface. Still it is a functional interface. Why? Because there is no limitation on default and static methods, right? An interface can have any number of default and static methods. So it will not provide any error here. Again, if I try to add a static method here, then what will happen? Let's check that also. So it will be a static method, and this will be the static method. This will be test static, and here instead of default method I will say static method. Again there will be a no error because it can have any number of default and static methods. But what if this particular test interface is having a abstract method here? So if I say a void show, now this is an abstract method for this particular interface. Now, and we are trying to extend this interface. Now we are getting error. Why we are getting error? Because now my functional interface will have two abstract methods, right? There is already a print method, and now we are extending the test, and inside the test also we have a show method, and this is an abstract method. So in my functional interface we will have two abstract method, and that does not fulfill the criteria of functional interface, right? A functional interface should have only one abstract method. So what we have learned here, a functional interface can extend another interface only when that interface does not have any abstract method. So if you don't have any abstract method here, then it's okay to extend this interface. But once you have an abstract method here, you cannot extend it because then you will have more than one abstract method. So I hope you have understood it. Another thing we can do here, you can have any number of default and static methods. So there is one default method here and one default method from this interface. But inside the same interface also you can have a multiple default and static methods. If I add one more default method here, default my default, let's say 2, change the name here to just check it. There is no error, right? Because it can have any number of default and static methods. Only criteria you need to follow is you should have one abstract method. So that is the theory about the functional interface and practical implementation of it. In the upcoming videos, we will see about this type of functional interface and how to make use of it.